Valeria Messalina. When you hear that name, it probably brings certain images to mind, right? Scandal, excess in ancient Rome.
Definitely.
You might think you already know her story, or, well, the version you've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Today, though, we're doing a deep dive. We want to get past those sensational headlines from antiquity.
Yeah, peel back the layers a bit.
Exactly. Our mission is to unpack the sources about Messalina, see if the legend, really holds up.
And it's a tricky task.
Yeah.
More complex than it sounds.
How so?
Well, because our picture of Messalina, it mostly comes from writers, long after she was dead.
Okay.
And they often had their own axes to grind, specific agendas.
Yeah.
Plus, there was the official damnatio memoria.
Right, the attempt to basically erase her from history.
Exactly. Wiping her name, her image from public view. But funny thing is, instead of making her disappear,
It backfired.
you could say that. It kind of created this vacuum.
Yeah.
An opportunity for all the rumors and stories to just rush in and, well, maybe make her even more infamous.
So let's get into what those writers actually said. What's the traditional picture they painted? We're talking Tacitus, Pliny the Elder, Juvenal.
Neon Cassius, too, yeah. And they really cemented her image, didn't they? She became the byword for the abusive, sexually out-of-control empress.
Definitely the bad empress trope.
Oh, absolutely. Her character is drawn in, like, the darkest possible colors in these accounts.
Yes.
Well, she's called faithless as a wife, implacable when she was scared or when her, passions or greed were involved.
Okay.
And she's shown manipulating Claudius, her husband, the emperor, making him her instrument and her dupe.
Right, pulling the strings from behind the scenes.
Exactly. Often working with powerful freedmen, think Polybius, Narcissus.
And the accusations get pretty specific, don't they?
Oh, very. Sacrificing illustrious families of Rome, either out of cupidity or hate.
Cupidity, so greed, basically.
Greed, yeah. And hate. Names like the two Julius come up. C. Appius Silanus, supposedly because he turned her down. And Valerius Asiaticus. They say she envied his mistress, Poppaea, and, maybe more importantly, wanted his huge, fancy estates, the gardens of Lucullus.
Wow. So it wasn't just about personal vendettas, but also serious wealth and power grabs.
Absolutely. I mean, these stories paint her as driven by fear and greed, and it goes further accusations of outright murder, even selling Roman citizenship for, get this, 2 cracked drinking cups.
Seriously. That's
According
to the sources.
Yeah, it's all designed to show her as not just immoral, but like a fundamental threat to Rome itself, to the whole social and political order.
So these details really build a case for her being completely out of control. What about her influence on actual state affairs? Was she just focused on personal stuff? Or?
Oh no, the sources claim her ambition was huge. Political, too.
Okay.
She's accused of disposing of legions and provinces without even consulting Claudius or the Senate.
Really? That sounds almost unbelievable for an empress at the time.
It does. And corrupting courts, filling public jobs with her own people, her creatures. Apparently this led to actual problems like scarcity and tumult in Rome around AD 43.
So the implication is her actions had real-world consequences for the city.
That's the narrative, yes.
And her influence over Claudius was seen as just immense. He apparently thought she deserved honors like Livia, Augustus's wife, had received.
Yeah, which is a huge deal.
And he was even called the unconscious minister of her pleasures. What about that detail of her getting her own special carriage in his triumph parade after the Britain campaign? What did that signal?
The covered carriage in AD 44. That was incredibly rare.
Yeah.
It showed this unprecedented level of public honor and integration into imperial ceremony for an empress. It screamed power.
Okay.
And well, that kind of visibility probably fueled the more scandalous stories, too. Especially the ones from Juvenal, the satirist.
Right, Juvenal. He wasn't exactly known for holding back.
Not at all. I mean, his descriptions are incredibly vivid, almost certainly exaggerated for effect.
Yeah.
Satire. Like her sneaking out of the palace at night.
Okay.
With her black hair hidden under a blonde wig.
A disguise.
To go work in a brothel. Working naked, with gilded nipples, demanding cash from clients, and then bringing the stink of the whorehouse back to the imperial bed.
Good grief. That's graphic.
It is. And then there's the most outrageous claim that she challenged Rome's most famous prostitute to a contest.
A contest? Of what?
Who could sleep with more men in 24 hours?
You're kidding.
Nope. And Juvenal claims Messalina won with a score of 25.
25. Okay, that sounds, well, like satire, as you said.
Highly likely, yes. Designed to shock and critique.
So all these stories, true or not, they build this picture, And it all comes to a head with one specific event, right? The thing that finally brought her down.
Exactly. The quote-unquote secret marriage to Gaius Silius,
Sicilius, described as basically the most handsome man in Rome.
the best-looking of Rome's young men, yeah. Consul designate. And the story goes she made him divorce his actual wife to marry her.
While she was still married to Claudius, the emperor.
Yes. And Claudius wasn't even in Rome at the time. He was away at Ostia, the port city.
Just sheer nerve of it.
It's astonishing. A public marriage with all the rights of a legal connubium. That means a proper, recognized legal wedding ceremony.
So not just a fling, this was...
This was treason, a direct challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Tacitus calls her passion for Silius a new love, even akin to madness.
Madness.
And he describes this wild Bacchic celebration happening alongside it. Imagine wild dancing, loads of wine, Messalina herself apparently waving a thyrsus, that Bacchic wand,
A symbol of ecstasy, abandon.
Exactly. And this was supposedly after they'd already had a more traditional wedding ceremony, too. It's portrayed as this complete breakdown of decorum and loyalty.
So this blatant act, this recklessness, it must have finally spooked her allies.
You'd think so, especially Narcissus. He was one of Claudius's most powerful freedmen, right up there in the inner circle.
Okay.
And apparently Messalina had recently engineered the downfall and death of another key freedman, Polybius.
So Narcissus probably thought, I could be next.
Precisely.
Yeah.
He saw his own life was likely on the line, so he decided to act strategically.
What did he do?
First, he had to convince Claudius. He framed the Silius marriage as a direct threat, not just to Claudius's marriage, but to his power, his empire, maybe even his life.
Okay, framing it politically.
Yes. Then he got two of Claudius's favorite concubines to actually break the news to the emperor while he was still down at Ostia.
Clever. Using Claudius's other women.
And crucially, as Claudius rushed back to Rome, Narcissus made sure Messalina couldn't get near him.
He kept them apart.
Yeah, even though she tried desperately. There's this detail about her trying to meet his carriage on the road, even having to ride on a city waste cart at one point. It sounds quite desperate.
Wow. What else did Narcissus do?
Well, to keep Claudius focused and angry, Narcissus apparently handed him these writing tablets detailing Messalina's depravities, just as she was trying to plead her case. A diversion tactic.
Very calculated.
Extremely. He also got himself put in command of the Praetorian Guard, the emperor's bodyguards, just for that crucial day, and made sure senators known to be hostile to Messalina were right there with Claudius.
Covering all the bases, how did Claudius react?
Apparently he wavered at first. Maybe he didn't want to believe it. But then, the sources say, he saw some of his own family heirlooms displayed at Silius's house.
Oh.
And he supposedly exploded in volcanic rage. But then, weirdly, it shifted to sorrow, and he just kept drinking.
That's odd. Sorrow.
It is odd. Maybe grief, maybe confusion, maybe just the wine. But Narcissus saw Claudius hesitating, maybe getting sentimental.
And decided he couldn't risk Claudius changing his mind.
Exactly. Narcissus basically took matters into his own hands and gave the order for execution, arguably without Claudius's explicit final say-so at that moment.
So Narcissus sealed her fate. What were her last moments like?
The accounts say her own mother, Domitia Lepida, was with her in the garden of Lutillus.
Which used to belong to Valerius Asiaticus, one of her alleged victims.
The very same. Quite the poetic justice, if you believe the stories. Anyway, her mother advised her to seek death with honor, meaning suicide.
The Roman way for disgraced nobles.
Right. But Messalina apparently couldn't bring herself to do it. She tried, fumbled.
So she didn't kill herself?
No. In the end, a tribune, an army officer sent by Narcissus, ran her through with a sword.
A brutal end. And then came the official condemnation.
Yes. The Senate decreed the damnatio memoriae. Her name, titles, statues, all ordered removed. Public and private spaces.
That ancient erasure. It's interesting you mentioned comparing it to modern cancel culture.
Well, it's a parallel people sometimes draw, but the Roman version was much more literal,
How so?
They could physically destroy the evidence, smash statues, chisel names off buildings, off coins. It wasn't just about damaging a reputation online. It was about attempting to physically remove someone from the historical record. Creating that vacuum we talked about, which paradoxically allows stories, true or false, to fill the void.
Right. Which brings us to the really interesting part, challenging that narrative.
Exactly.
Was she really just driven by, as Tacitus suggested, madness and lust? Or was there something more strategic going on?
This is where modern historians often come in, characteristically preferring, political explanations over purely sexual ones.
Okay, what's the main argument there?
The core idea is that Messalina might have felt her own position, and maybe more importantly, her son Britannicus's position as heir was becoming insecure.
Ah, so Claudius might have been thinking of replacing her.
Possibly, maybe lining up a new wife, perhaps Agrippina the Younger, who did eventually marry Claudius and was Nero's mother. So the Silius marriage wasn't madness, but a calculated, if incredibly risky, desperate act to secure her future by replacing Claudius before he replaced her.
A preemptive coup, almost.
Sort of, yeah. And this leads to an even more provocative question.
It is.
Did Claudius know about the Silius affair or even the marriage all along?
What? Really? Why would he allow it?
Well, one theory suggests Claudius might have used Messalina and her circle for political support earlier on, but maybe he decided it was time for a change. Wanted a new alliance, like with Agrippina's faction.
So, dropping Messalina, letting her take the fall for everything?
Exactly. It lets him pivot, marry someone new, gain their supporters, and conveniently blame Messalina for all the unpopular stuff that had happened. He gets a clean slate.
Is there any evidence for that? It sounds pretty cynical.
It's definitely cynical. Direct evidence is scarce. But there's this one really strange story mentioned about Claudius apparently signing the marriage contract that passed Messalina's dowry over to Silius.
He signed it. That would imply he knew, or was incredibly out of it.
Precisely. If true, it suggests he was either complicit or being manipulated in a way that makes him look less like the clueless victim. This view paints Claudius as, well, a much smarter and perhaps more ruthless politician than the traditional image allows.
Okay, that definitely complicates the picture. So, if we're considering these alternative political motives, how much faith should we put in those incredibly scandalous stories from the ancient writers? You mentioned their biases earlier.
Right, let's dig into that. Tacitus, for instance. He's writing about 70 years later.
Okay, quite a gap.
And his perspective as a senator was generally hostile to emperors like Claudius, who, reduced the Senate's power, plus who are his sources, potentially biased ones, like the memoirs of Agrippina the Younger.
Messalina's successor and archenemy.
Exactly. Not likely to be favorable. And Tacitus admits using hearsay sometimes.
Okay, so Tacitus has issues. What about Suetonius?
He's writing around the same time, and Suetonius, well, he loved a good scandal.
He's known for the juicy details, right?
Absolutely. He often includes trivial gossip that even he did not believe, seemingly just for entertainment value. He liked to categorize emperors as good or bad.
And Messalina helps paint Claudius
as weak, insecure, easily manipulated. A bad emperor influenced by women and freedmen. Also, crucially, Suetonius seems to have lost his access to the official imperial archives before writing about Claudius.
Ah, so he was relying more on...
Probably more on those traditional histories, which were likely already biased and, well, gossip.
And Juvenal. We already touched on him.
Yeah, Juvenal's a satirist.
Yeah.
His goal is different. It's entertainment, social commentary through exaggeration.
Hyperbole.
Massive hyperbole. Those incredibly vivid descriptions, the wig, the brothel, the gilded nipples, the contest, they're almost certainly hugely exaggerated and emphasized features. Fantastic for satire, but terrible as reliable history.
So, taking all these biases into account, Tacitus's politics, Suetonius's love of scandal, Juvenal satire, what does this really tell us about Messalina herself and maybe more broadly about sex and politics in Rome back then?
That's the key, understanding the context. First, Roman views on sex were very different from, say, later Christian views.
Yeah.
The idea of sex as sin wasn't really there. Adultery for a woman was a social crime and infringed on her husband's rights, his property, his lineage. It wasn't necessarily seen as a deep moral failing in our modern sense.
Right. And what about men?
Well, aristocratic men certainly weren't expected to be faithful. Claudius himself had concubines. That was normal.
So a double standard, but different from ours.
Very different. Sexual behavior was more about social status, power dynamics, cultural norms. Illicit affairs were common, maybe even seen as sophisticated in some circles.
Interesting.
And you have to remember, sexual desire was seen as a really powerful passion. Roman audiences, like audiences today, frankly, loved a good sex scandal.
So accusing a powerful woman of sexual misconduct was...
an easy hit. Probably the easiest way to purge a queen and her circle to discredit them completely.
But sex also had a political dimension.
Oh, absolutely. Marriage was fundamentally political, used to cement alliances' legitimate political links. So it stands to reason that illegitimate relationships, like adultery, could be used to forge close, illegitimate political ties.
Ah, like a secret alliance.
Exactly. There's a shared risk, a certain frisson that binds the adulterers together politically as well as personally.
So thinking about Messalina through that lens, it challenges the simple, lustful monster image. It suggests maybe she was playing a complex, high-stakes political game.
It does.
And perhaps we should also consider her role as a mother. Could she have been driven, at least partly, by a desire to protect her son, Britannicus, make sure he inherited the throne?
That's a very important perspective, often overlooked in the focus on scandal. Was she a protective mother trying to secure her child's future in an incredibly dangerous environment? It's plausible.
It makes her seem less like a caricature.
Absolutely. From this angle, she might look more like a victim of her time, targeted because she was a powerful woman in a man's world operating in a brutal political system. The stories then get exaggerated, maybe even fabricated, to justify her removal.
So we started this deep dive with Valeria Messalina, a name basically synonymous with Roman debauchery. But digging into the sources, looking at the biases, considering modern interpretations, a much more complicated figure emerges.
Definitely.
A powerful woman, yes, maybe ruthless, but navigating incredibly treacherous political waters in a society stacked against her.
And I think that's the real takeaway here. Recovering figures like Messalina isn't just about finding the true facts, which is probably impossible anyway.
Right.
It's about understanding how history gets written, recognizing the biases, seeing how narratives are constructed, the stories Rome told about its powerful women, Messalina, Livia, Agrippina. They tell us so much about Rome itself,
About its anxieties, its prejudices.
its assumptions, its desires, what they feared in women, what they admired, what they condemned. It's a mirror to their own society.
Which leaves us with a final thought, perhaps. If the stories about someone as infamous as Messalina are this layered and biased, what might we be missing about other historical figures we think we know so well just because we've only ever really heard one version of their story?